So I've just been inside the Royal Courts of Justice to hear the appeal judgment for Dr BawaGarba. Dr BawaGarba was a paediatrician who was struck off after the General Medical Council appealed against the tribunal ruling which suspended her for 12 months but did not take her off the register. As a result of the GMC appeal, she was struck off the medical register. But now we find out today that Dr BawaGarba has actually won her appeal against the GMC, and she has been reinstated onto the medical register. So what does this tell us about the regulator, the General Medical Council? Well, I believe that this case should never have been brought. There were multiple system failures when BawaGarba was in charge of looking after Jack Adcock, who tragically passed away. But there were multiple system failures, and Dr BawaGarba and one of the nurses on duty were singled out for blame, and she ended up being convicted of gross negligence manslaughter in 2015. Despite that, she continued to work and was found by the Medical Tribunal Service that she would be able to continue practice after a 12-month suspension, up until the General Medical Council's intervention. But thankfully, we've had justice today. The judge has ruled in her favour, and hopefully this will send a strong signal to the General Medical Council that they have overreached and they mustn't try to undermine the medical profession by their actions in the future. So Chris, can you sum up what we've just heard about the BawaGarba case today?
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say how pleased I am, and would like to congratulate Hadiza and her family on justice being done today in the Court of Appeal.
So what was the finding? What did the judge have to say about the appeal?
Well, basically, in my view, this case is about scapegoating an individual for multiple system failures and for the decisions of healthcare leaders, and in this case also the actions and decisions of the junior doctor, Hadiza Bawa Garba's senior consultant. And it was about really disregarding all of those other factors and putting it all on her. And I think what we've seen today is the Court of Appeal has seen through that, and it's commended the initial panel, the MPT panel's approach to the case to actually look at what happened more broadly, all the system failures, the decisions and mistakes of other members of staff, and actually to show some compassion and to actually reverse the decision to get her struck off.
One point that the judge made was the conviction for manslaughter was looking at events in the past, whereas the tribunal was looking at her safety going forward. And what conclusion did the tribunal reach about Dr BawaGarba?
Well, the first thing, they identified that those are very different things. The jury were asked to consider the crime of manslaughter, whereas the MPT were asked to consider her future practice as a doctor, and they saw her unblemished career, they saw her excellent performance before and after the tragic events involving the death of Jack Adcock, and they looked at all the system failures and the failures of other members of staff, and they concluded quite rightly that she shouldn't be struck off. And they also acknowledged that as a paediatric doctor she was much needed by society. She's obviously a high-performing paediatric doctor in the highest third of her cohort, so a very good paediatric doctor, and they quite rightly identified that the public interest would not be served by striking her off. The big question is, why were medical leaders across the board so slow, taking several years to see this case for what it was?
And it was down to individuals such as yourself and Team Hadiza to crowdfund for this case. So it was down to grassroots doctors in the end to take the lead on this.
Well, yes, I mean, I would like to just say, as part of Team Hadiza, the crowdfunder, we came to this very late. So we were last hour, got involved, but there was a group of grassroots doctors, namely her Dr BawaGarba's former educational supervisor, Dr Cusack, and Jenny Vaughan. They were just put loads of hours of support and fight into getting us to where we've got to today. And yes, the question applies to them as well. You know, why was it left to them to correct this monumental injustice that is, quite frankly, a disaster for NHS safety and transparency? Why was it left to them and crowdfunding to ensure justice was done, not just for Dr BawaGarba, but really for the NHS going forward.
Well, it creates a culture of fear. If you speak up, you potentially lose your career, and if you keep your head down and try and do the right thing, you potentially risk being scapegoated. What does this say about our medical regulator, the General Medical Council, which pursued Dr BawaGarba in this way?
Well, it says they lost quite, the black and white answer is they lost, and they lost so badly they got costs awarded against them. So that just shows an organisation out of control, doesn't it? It shows an organisation not fit for purpose, and it probably shows misconduct.
And in terms of the confidence the public and profession have with the regulator now, what has it done to public confidence?
Well, you'd have to ask the public that, but if I was the public, I'd be very, very concerned. I also think it's the GMC's actions in regard to this case has actually put the Adcock family through a load of unnecessary suffering. Instead of an honest explanation for the death of their child, they've been essentially fed a story about a scapegoat and have been dragged through this legal process that the GMC has actually lost. So I feel nothing but compassion for the Adcocks. They have lost a child, and they should not have been put through this. They should have been given an honest explanation.
Well, I agree, it's shown very poor judgment. Thank you very much for talking to us, and hopefully you'll get some more Heist reports and updates. Please share this video, and thank you very much.